Yeah, so last week I talked about money. I think throughout history, money influenced people. And a lot of times people with money held power. And for some strange reason, just because you have more money, people held you at a higher standard, even though you're just a normal human being. Your words had more authority. You had more influence over people. Basically, this all happens because the people who don't have money look to you who have money in hopes that they can gain some kind of favor or get some of your money or get the opportunities that come with your money. And so it's kind of unhealthy and sick in some ways. You don't want to be the person kissing butt because somebody has a lot of money, because you may get some freebies, because you may get some XYZ, like whatever it may be. And so I think a lot of this identity building comes from gaining wealth to build their identity. And a lot of times when people chase this money, they use it for their power. They're basically chasing it for power. And it alters people. It alters good people to do selfish things, It alters people to sacrifice themselves so that they gain favor. And I don't know how much of this is embedded inside of everybody. We don't know until we come across situations and our true colors come out. But it is something I think we all need to kind of fight against. It's not, money doesn't solve life's problems. It solves some problems, but I think it also creates a lot of problems. So I was just thinking about the power dynamic when it comes to money and how people feel like money will solve most of your problems. And it's not true. Money helps when it needs to help, but you can't let money have a hold on your life and have a hold on you and your decision making and make you compromise who you are because of money, because of the love of money, or because the fear of not having money.
So during this week's rides, we had cooler temperatures, around 60 degrees in some places, and especially at night. But during the day, it would get pretty warm, upper 90s at times. And inside the truck was pretty hot from time to time. Good scenes up and down the 5 freeway in California and going through also the Grapevine and the Tehachapi. But all in all, pretty good scenes all around. There were pockets of heavy traffic from time to time, but long stretches of good driving. Most of the delays were at the loading docks, shipping and receiving. But for the most part, smooth rides back and forth from Southern California to Northern California. The driving itself wasn't too bad. And of course, going up and down Northern California, you get more miles than going to Phoenix and back. So it should be over 2,300 miles this week, 6 legs, 3 round trips. One of the days was a trip into downtown Los Angeles, which was not pleasant at all. And a lot of the receiving and shipping places, they would not budge on their times, and it was pretty challenging.
So I want to talk to you guys about confrontational people or confrontational moments that you have while you're driving. A lot of times you're going to face people that escalate things very quickly. These are people usually that are used to getting their way by trying to instill fear in people. They try to get in your face, get aggressive, and unless they get their way, they give you the idea or the impression that they're going to do something to make your life uncomfortable or hurt you. And most human beings, when we were younger, we were disciplined in one way or another. And when we come across those situations, a lot of times it triggers this feeling of wanting to conform or obey or else. Most people that have gone through some kind of discipline, it could trigger that. And then later on, you think back and you go, that guy was a jerk. Why did I, accommodate that guy? Why did I do what he wanted? And we actually enable these people to be toxic. There's a million ways to handle confrontation, and I'm not trying to sit here and tell you the cure-all for bad situations. I'm not. You guys have to make an assessment because, those situations can turn dangerous. Those situations can turn ugly, and you may get unwanted results. Now, you have to figure out what kind of people these are. In their mind, they may feel like they're completely justified in doing what they're doing. But in reality, a lot of times, these people are just like little babies having temper tantrums. They're just, chemically imbalanced, right? I'm talking about, if you have a problem scale of 1 through 10, if this is like a 2 problem, all of a sudden they're acting like it's a 9 problem or a 10 problem, and they're in your face getting aggressive. I come across people like this once in a while, and one of the ways that I deal with it is, let me tell you that this one guy came up to me and he just basically got on my grill and threw his arms up in the air like he wanted to throw down. And I looked at him and I just kind of in disbelief. I'm like, really? Like, you're going to try to flex right now? You're going to try to look bigger than you are, trying to intimidate me? And I looked at him and I smiled. And then, and he was going on. And I looked at him and I smiled and I said, I'm sorry I upset you, And it kind of threw him off guard. But the whole time, I didn't let him faze me. I didn't let him get under my skin. I just looked at him and smiled. And he's not used to that kind of a response because he's used to somebody else getting pissed off or walking away. And obviously, I guess, I don't know, maybe he's probably sized me up. I'm not a huge guy, I'm not that big. I'm not tall. I'm not, and then he maybe thought I was a fresh immigrant. I don't know. You never know what he thought. He probably thought he could have his way with me. I just looked at him. And one of the things that I realized I do without even knowing it, and I just thought about it, is that I almost look at the situation in a third person perspective, I don't let it rile me up as much. I mean, there are times when I get riled up. There are times when I will get in people's faces. I will probably explode. And there are times when I want to just, this guy's a mess. I'm going to avoid it, or I'm just going to try to cautiously remove myself from the situation. But anyway, most of the times these situations occur, it's weird. I almost feel like I'm having an out-of-body experience where I just kind of watch this interaction happen. And the whole time, I look at the people, and usually, they're acting like juveniles. They're acting like, people with no patience, people with no manners, people that are so self-consumed that they only care about their agenda and their time and what they're going through. And there are times when everybody's under the pressure cooker, and so I try to see what kind of a person that person is. If they're stressed out and they look like they're under pressure for time or whatever, you could kind of read it in their face. There's an anxiousness, there's a level of urgency and things like that. And you're like, okay, yeah, go, do what you got to do. I'll give you room, out of courtesy. Obviously, people are stressed out, But a lot of times you will come across people that are just jerks. It's all about them. It's all about getting their way. And I've had experiences with people that just have a full-blown drill sergeant moment where they're sitting there commanding everything and everybody around them, thinking they're going to get their way. And I look at them and I think, get the cork out of your butt. Seriously. It's kind of laughable, but at the same time, it could be a very dangerous situation and it could be a very ugly situation. And they act like this more when they know or when they think they can get away with it. When they size up situations, they will bark that big bark and they will, flare their chest out, and throw their arms up in the air like, come on, let's go, But at the end of the day, deep down inside, these guys are cowards. These guys have a lot of fear. They feel like they have to intimidate people because they don't know how to live life in peace and harmony. They don't know how to be polite. They don't know how to think beyond just their wants, their selfishness. They feel like, and you know what it is? It's kind of like Darwinism. It's like in their mind, it's survival of the fittest, And out of all that fear that's embedded inside of them, out of all that insecurity, they have to sit there and try to fight everybody, step on all the weaker people, Life shouldn't be like that. We're human beings. We're not animals, We're human beings. And so anyway, I wanted to talk about this topic real quick this week because I think it's important to be aware of dealing with people that have this rage mode that comes on once in a while. The rage button they put on, whether they do it voluntarily or whether they do it subconsciously or they do it just out of habit. I don't know, but you will from time to time see people that just get upset, like very angry, or try to throw authority on people when they don't have really authority over you, When you come across these situations, one, proceed with caution because, they may be unstable people, but don't let it intimidate you. I'm talking about especially the younger people out there. There are some of these older people, they feel like they've got age over you and they'll just throw attitude towards you. Like they're scolding you like you're their son or you're their daughter. Screw them. Seriously, they don't have authority over you. I mean, there is a level of common decency and respect, and if, usually when you come across people that probably have more experience in life and whatnot, you generally tend to show them more respect. But if they don't deserve your respect, you don't have to feel intimidated by them. Seriously. Giving respect is your choice to give. It's not something that should be squeezed out of you or forced out of you. Keep that in mind. I don't mean for you to go around being disrespectful to everybody. I'm just saying, use your judgment and show respect when you can, but at the same time, don't be a doormat. Don't be intimidated. Don't let people abuse you. You know, there's a lot of people that are smaller in stature that may come across some of these big people. They act like they've got one up on you. Read their BS. See where they're coming from. Don't get intimidated. Don't live life out of fear. You don't need to live life out of fear. You should use caution, but don't be fearful. And I want you guys to know that the more you know, the less fear you will have, because the less situations you'll come across that are unpredictable. The more you're familiar with certain situations, even somewhat dangerous situations or situations where you need to be cautious, you could proceed with caution if you know what your options are at that point. So the more you learn about these situations, the better off you're going to be. But let me tell you, a lot of those people that bark a big bark, they have issues. They can act like police officers. They can act like drill sergeants. They can act like they've got the authority of the Almighty behind them. But at the end of the day, unless you signed up for them to have authority over you, or unless they are, by law, they can have authority over you, don't let them have authority over you. Don't be a doormat, and be smart. I'm not saying you need to get in the grill and get confrontational. Be smart. Okay? Hope that helps.
What's going on, my people? So this week was filled with drama, just one annoying problem after the other. Every load seemed to have its challenges. I was stuck in traffic for a lot of my rides. So it just ate up on my driving clock, ate up also on my 70-hour clock. I ended up going to NorCal back and forth 3 times. So a total of 6 legs, 3 round trips, a total of 2340, I think, 2,340 miles. On paper, it wasn't a bad week, but they had me working till late Saturday. So I got home at 8 o'clock last night, and I'm taking off tonight, which is Sunday. So basically barely like 24 hours at home, because I don't like fighting that traffic to get to my truck in the morning tomorrow on Monday morning. And it jeopardizes me being late. So even though technically you get a minimum 34-hour reset, I like getting back to the truck, being in the sleeper, sleeping in the truck, and then waking up when it's time to deliver my load or pick up my load, start my shift basically. Anyway, so the week itself was, like I said, the money was decent, but the amount of small and big problems that I faced, it just had a huge domino effect. Everything got delayed. This one place I went to pick up my load, I went over there and they said, you need a number that starts with the 700. So when you get a load, usually you get a bunch of reference numbers. Some are appointment numbers, some are BOL numbers, some are, they have a bunch of numbers, right? And they basically needed me to have a pickup number that started with the 700. On my tablet, on my assignment, there was no number that started with 700. And then so I called in, but nobody's getting the phone. We had a rough week last week where a bunch of people were out for one reason or another, and one person was manning all the phones, and I felt sorry for him. And that person had to deal with all the drama coming from all the drivers. So he went ahead and replied to me via text and told me that he'll give me that number. So he gave me the number, the 700 number. And then I went ahead and told the guard shack. The guard shack said, okay, hold on. They called into the back office. And this is how the string of events that needs to take place for just one load to get, released. Anyway, so they called the shipping department. The shipping department says, no, that number doesn't exist. So the guard shack tells me, you need to get out of here, turn around here, and wait outside of that black gate. So they made me wait outside of the facility, basically. The whole time I'm trying to work with my company to get the right 700 number. After about an hour and a half of back and forth, probably 2 hours or so, they said, no, that's the right number. You need to go back there and tell them that that's the right number. I didn't want to U-turn, go in, and then U-turn back and go out, and do all that. So I just walked over there, made a trek, and I went to the guard shack, and they're like, oh, you're back. Your 700 number is okay. And so I get back in line. And mind you, this line is just taking forever because they said their systems are slow. So everybody getting checked in is probably taking 10 to 20 minutes. And then I'm sitting there, initially I was sitting there 4 or 5 trucks behind. And this time I'm another 3 trucks behind. So, I'm pulling my hair out. All because of what? All because of somebody dropped the ball. Somebody can't get their act straight. It was a series of events where on my side, they never gave me that reference number. And then on their side, they never recognized the number. And then at the end, they're like, oh, everything's okay. Who dropped the ball? I don't know. But who suffers? It's the driver. Probably 4 or 5 hours of nonsense. I don't know. It was just horrendous. And then by the time I went ahead and got everything loaded and took off, it just ruined the whole driving time. Everything was I was on pins and needles the whole time, just trying to get to my location, drop this load, pick up the other load, and get on the way, And I was telling you, I was fighting my clock, trying to find a parking space right at the end. Nothing went to plan. And yesterday morning, I should have been home at the latest about 9 or 10 a.m. I had a whole schedule set up for that whole day, and I had to cancel everything. And this is some of the drawbacks of trucking, And then to top it off, I don't feel like I'm completely like rested. 34 hours at home, really, like, it's not really a reset mentally or physically. So you need a little bit more, and that's why I like ending earlier. But anyway, I probably just gave you a bunch of negative energy right now, which is not cool. But this is the life of a trucker. I just want to keep things real. Next week, I'm hoping things are better, things go smoother. We'll see how my loads go, my assignments go after I change my schedule. It's been, I think, like 3 weeks or so since I changed my schedule, and so far they've been keeping me busy. I hope it continues. If it continues, then great. If it doesn't, then we're gonna have to figure something out. So I met a Walmart driver actually, and he said, "Hey, I used to drive for Schneider," and we were at a fueling station, and he just did some small talk. Unfortunately, I couldn't talk to him a long time or pick his brain, but he basically, in a nutshell, told me, because he asked me how much I was getting paid and all that, and I told him, and he kind of had like a weird, "Oh man, that's not good," that kind of look. And of course, everybody knows that Walmart is one of the more stable, more supported, and more driver friendly destinations for non-owner operator truck drivers. If you're going to be a company driver, Walmart is one of the better companies to work for. And unfortunately, he's telling me that you need 3 years. I thought it was 2.5 years, but you need 3 years experience to even be considered for Walmart. So that was fascinating. He didn't say how much, but he made it sound like he was making a lot more than what I make at Schneider. So go figure. But it's another option or another door to consider when I finally get there. But we'll see. Who knows how things are, and who knows what I'll be doing in a year and a half. Anyway, thank you for following me on this journey. Peace. If you're driving out there, stay safe. God bless you, and have a great week. Cheers.